So I wanted to just show this diagram right at the beginning of the video. It's very simple actually. You have two tone pots and a volume. The volume is where all the grounds go, the main ground from the bridge. It actually goes to the volume pot also. And then the input jack and the hot lead and the ground lead from the input jack go to the volume. This is a 5-way switch, which makes it a modern setup. So you can see the neck, the middle, and the bridge are connected, how it's connected. So the wiring is actually pretty simple, and all three pots are grounded because they touch the grounding plate on the back of the pick guard. So this diagram assumes that pots and the switch are grounded together via the pick guard. If you want to make it even want to be more systematic, you can put a black wire across both tones to the volume as kind of a ground to ground all three of the devices together. It's not necessary if you have that pick guard with the grounding plate. So, but you can see that the wiring diagram is very simple, and if you just follow this diagram, everything should work out just perfectly.
Okay, welcome to the Average Dad channel. Today we're going to wire up a pick guard, and this is just a regular Stratocaster single coil arrangement. And so what I've done right off the bat here is I've went ahead and mounted the pots to the back of the pick guard, and I've mounted the pickups onto the pick guard. So I've mounted all the hardware onto the pick guard. And one thing, just a little thing aside, before you mount the pots, take the plastic back, remove it from the holes where the pots are going to go in, because if you screw those pots down with the plastic underneath, that plastic is going to be underneath your tone knobs and your volume knob, and it's going to drive you nuts. So just pull the plastic back first before you screw the pots down. Now, what's interesting about this pick guard is it does have the conductor plate on the back, this right here. So these three pots need to be grounded together. And so instead of having to run I still could do this, run a black lead to all three of the pots, which is probably not a bad idea, but they are all grounded because they're all touching this plate. So if they're all touching this plate, what I've done is I put a voltmeter, a multimeter between these three pots, and there is no resistance, so there's conductivity between those three pots, so they are grounded, and that's because they're all touching this pick guard shielding material. So what I'm going to do now, I've got it all laid out. So what I'm going to do the pickups last. I'm going to glue the pickups in last. That's probably the easiest part. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mark all the areas where there's going to be two conductors on one lead. So I'm just going to take a Sharpie so you can see these are all one conductor per lead. Now this will be two conductors, so you're going to have one there and you're going to have one there, because I'm going to have two conductors in that lead. This one, there's going to be two conductors in that, and there's going to be two conductors in this one here. So I'm just going to put a mark there. And I think what I'm going to do is actually solder those in first. So, but before I do that, what I really want to do is go ahead and tin or put solder in the holes of all of the conductors that we're going to use. So first thing I'm going to do is heat up my soldering iron, and then I'm just going to go ahead and put solder in each one of the positions. And on the volume pot here, I'm going to put a pool of solder, because we're going to put a lot of grounding wires to that pot, and we're going to run our ground off of that pot. So there needs to be a pool of solder there where we can connect everything. So let me do that first. So here's the Stratocaster modern wiring, basic 3 single coils. It's modern because it's a 5-way switch, not a 3-way switch. And it's dressed properly, so it should fit in the route channel very easily, the way I have the wires dressed. And if I zoom in on it, you can see it's cloth wiring. And I have the trem claw ground, and I have the hot and ground lead for the input jack, and everything looks good. So we'll just have to test it out, see if it works. But these 3 pots here are grounded together. I did check for resistance, and there's no resistance, so there's conductivity between these 3 pots because they're touching this plate, this conductive material on the pick guard. So everything looks good.